Welcome to Minhag Dirigo, a Jewish Maine podcast. What this podcast is, so let's give you some definitions here. Minhag is a custom that's not mandated across the board in Judaism, but becomes specific to a community or family, like unique prayer rituals or specific takes on Jewish dietary laws. Dirigo, which is Latin for I direct or I lead, is our Maine state motto, correlating to the North Star and its utility in navigation. It appears on the Maine state seal. And if you paid attention last year, we had a vote on whether or not we adopted a flag that had one of the beautiful pine trees and the North Star on it. It was pretty cool looking. We went with the flag of the Civil War. It looks pretty good. It has its own tradition, but the North Star, that Dirigo, that's quintessentially Maine. So this is a nod, though I am not Reform, to Rabbi Isaac Mayer Wise. In 1857, Rabbi Wise published Minhag America, which was a siddur or prayer book designed as a compromise for traditionalists and anti-traditionalists in early Reform Judaism. It replaced for many Minhag Ashkenaz or Nusach Ashkenaz or the Nusach of the Sephardi Jews were using. It was a valiant effort to build a common framework for prayer as Jews from different backgrounds came to these shores. In many ways, Jews in Maine have a special kind of meta minhag that transcends denominational or observance differences. It's not terrifically from my experience when I was stationed with the Alaskan Jewish community outside of Fort Richardson, Alaska. They're the true frozen chosen. Some people have called the Maine Jews frozen chosen, but we still have that kind of unique cultural identity as Mainers and Jews. It's fun. Why I am doing this podcast because I'm a rabbinical student with the Pluralistic Rabbinical Seminary. This is a top-notch online effort modeled after online MBA programs. The learning is asynchronous, but in many ways, it's not lesser than what you might receive at HUC or JTS. It combines a really healthy dose of entrepreneurship with practical rabbinics in a way that's primed to help sustain far-flung Jewish communities like Northern and Down East Maine. It's also good for startup communities. And I think we could use a little bit of that vibe. As our communities age, we have to have ways to entice new Jews, and one of them is speaking to younger Jews. And I'm not young anymore; I'm just shy of 50. But I like the appeal of the podcast. I like the appeal of social media and doing things a certain way. I didn't even say my name. Goodness, I'm so new at podcasting. My father was a radio broadcaster, among many other things, for most of my young life, and you'd think I'd pick up a thing or two from him. I did not. I'm Brian Kresge. I retired in 2024 from the Maine Army National Guard after enlisting in 1994 in the active duty Army as a paratrooper. Across that 30-year span, and wow, it was almost all my adult life, I served 3 years overseas and participated in numerous domestic missions. I mentioned I was a paratrooper. I've jumped out of airplanes, helicopters, a hot air balloon once. I have British and Thai parachute wings. It was fun. I also went to a basic and advanced military mountaineering courses when I was stationed in Alaska. Then Fort Greely. That was really exciting. I've climbed the second highest peak in North America and a bunch of other ones. These days, I don't climb quite so much, mostly because I've got kids and I want to live to see them grow old. Yeah, the whole experience paid for college and grad school, and it's paved the way for a really decent civilian occupation. So for the past almost 30 years, civilian side, I've been a software engineer. And I work in data science, and I'm now an executive in the healthcare IT space. I'm an expert on artificial intelligence. I don't like to toot my own horn, but I've lectured on it. I do lecture on it quite often, both Jewishly and in my civilian profession. My Jewish journey is of interest here, probably. I am a halfsy with a Jewish mother. And a friend in middle school found out, I didn't do anything with it when I was a kid. I knew we were Jewish, but I didn't really know what that meant. A friend in middle school, she started to encourage me to come to what turned out to be the shul my grandmother was confirmed with. They didn't do bat mitzvahs back when she was a kid. And when I joined the army, I joined Chabad Lubavitch. That was really fantastic for a good 15 years. I finally settled on this kind of modern Orthodox slash conservadox level of observance that my wife and I maintain in our household. And becoming a rabbi has been an interesting second career move. I have to make clear, I don't have any interest in being a pulpit rabbi except to pinch hit for our local communities. I'm most at home in the outdoors. I tend to frame my Jewishness around being in the outdoors. I've written a book about kosher backpacking, how to do wilderness travel and keep kosher, uh, and be shomer mitzvot. I also have published an Observant Jews Appalachian Trail Guide app on that's available on Android and Apple devices. I want to build a synagogue without walls project in Maine, like the Adventure Rabbi out west. I'm in the process of becoming a registered Maine guide. The beautiful thing about my background is I'm once capable of being a wilderness instructor. I've done a lot of that search and rescue work and mountain climbing. I've got the skills and the chops that a lot of other people entering wilderness the rabbinates don't. Not some kind of wilderness elitist, but I know what I'm doing out there. The Judaism comes second, unfortunately, to that those skills. I did also just enter my seventh term as president of Maine's oldest synagogue, and that's Congregation Beth Israel in Bangor. My wife Leah and I have been married. Well, we'll be married 20 years here in 2026. She's a teacher, and she runs our joint religious school, Hebrew school called Kesher. That's a joint project of Congregation Beth Israel and Congregation Beth El in Bangor, Maine. We live with our youngest daughter, Nezzy, in Winterport. I have two older children, Adrian, who lives in Florida but is moving to Australia after graduating college in December, and Avi, who is a student at Temple University in Japan, and she graduates next year. Uh, I think my theology might be relevant, especially since I'm going to be a rabbi someday, actually within the next year. This informs a lot of what we do on this podcast. Years and years ago, I found Mikori Judaism, which isn't so much a movement, but a kind of a nebulous amalgam of various hashkafot. It was a noble attempt to root halacha back to a state prior to the glut of very confounding, contradictory poskim. This sort of fizzled, and while our household observance resembles a kind of open orthodoxy, we affiliate and definitely operate out of a conservative community. The problem for us is that we love our congregation. Don't get me wrong. This is not where I'm going with it. But what I struggle with conservative Judaism is what's on paper and what we as laity tend to do or not do. Uh, and that's what kind of disqualifies the movement in the eyes of many Orthodox. And it's not an unfair assessment, but we all live, we do what we do. Um, I I tend to when the day comes that I'm anybody's Mara Diatra, uh, I tend to hew to two concepts when it comes to D'Oraita commandments from the Torah. I go with the stringency. When it's D'Rabbanan, I go for the leniency. But at the end of the day, I think that my theology is largely defined by my love for Jews and humanity, and that's transcendent. In my favorite book, Dr. Zhivago, there's this line: "Communion between mortals is itself immortal." I find God laying tefillin and praying 3 times a day, absolutely. I find God more, and this was probably why I stayed in the military for so long, when I'm with good people doing good things. Only through both, ritual observance, mitzvot observance, and living and being friendly to other human beings, only through that both do I feel we live a Jewish life in full. Everything else is commentary. Go and study. So I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'd like to take a moment and talk about my kind of sponsor for this, Congregation Beth Israel in Bangor, Maine. We're located on York Street in Bangor. We're the oldest congregation in the state. We have an amazing facility. We have an amazing congregation. I invite everybody to come out, Jewish or not, just enjoy a Shabbat with us. We always do a lovely bit of food after. But we have a good range of capers with our locks, so it's good stuff. We're a vibrant, egalitarian, and progressive Jewish community. We welcome Jews from all backgrounds, their partners, your families, those seeking to live Jewishly. We encourage active participation in synagogue life by each member according to their individual and interests and abilities, whether that's coming to services, whether that's coming to our programming, whether that's just hanging out and going on a hike, or as we used to do, pub crawls. We have an embarrassment of riches in terms of microbreweries around here. We love beer. A lot of us love beer. We empower our members to live joyful and meaningful lives through prayer, learning, community friendships, and the Jewish imperative of tikkun olam, repair of the world. That's Congregation Beth Israel in Bangor. It's a lot of fun. Uh, we produced a lot of really amazing people over the years. I'm very proud to have been president for 6 years now, going on seven. I look forward to not being president anymore soon because it's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love that I'm honored to have been able to participate in for so long. Um, Getting back to what we're doing, this is just an introductory podcast tonight. Uh, we have a couple of upcoming topics that we're going to cover down on. I am doing this podcast because I have to, but also it turned into, well, this is neat. This is something I want to do. I have to do a Christian interfaith relations, Jewish Christian relations podcast based off of one of my courses. Uh, Being a halfsy, I have an interesting family dynamic that's very helpful here. As I pursue the rabbinate, my brother Kevin and my father Roger are both part of the United Methodist Certified Lay Minister Program. Many Protestant denominations struggle, as the Reform and Conservative movements do, with a high demand for clergy that is not being produced to match from our institutions. Like our small town synagogues, small town churches struggle to find willing clergy. My brother and father have both taken up work as ministers for smaller churches in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. That's where I'm from originally. One in Mardickville and other in Peach Bottom, if you're familiar with Lancaster County. So my brother will join us for a multi-part exploration that is this requirement of my coursework. It's a series about Christian-Jewish relations. Kevin is fun to talk to when it's not for academic reasons. Um, he's a really phenomenal bass player, a good father, a good husband, strong. He also is an IT professional, just like me. And he has a keen relationship to me as his brother and the Jewish people and the land of Israel. I couldn't find a better person to explore these topics with, and we're going to go over a range of things from the covenant, our takes on the covenant, to Israel, to all sorts of great things. The next series that we're going to do is the Jewish Maine Luminaries series. Jews in Maine lead outsized civic and entertainment roles. I can't tell you personally how many times I'm asked to write op-eds uh, for our local newspapers, for national newspapers, for political campaigns, because I've run for political office a couple times myself. But over the next several months, we're going to try and get interviews with people like the director of the Maine Jewish Museum, the director for the director of the Center for Small Town Jewish Life, uh, our congregational rabbi, Rabbi Bill Seamers, who's my mentor and friend, and just a dude that forgets more than I will ever know about Judaism. There's so many more, but that's just a smattering of who we're going to try and get as guests. Uh, and then the next series we're going to be doing is Jew It Yourself Judaism. Part of living in small communities like Maine means we have to be inventive with our Jewish resources. It made national news when the Waterville congregation got chunks of ice and built their own mikveh. We have a mikveh in Bangor. I think we are the only mikveh until Waterville built theirs. We were the only mikveh in the state that was used by both liberal Jewish denominations and Orthodox. Uh, and that's something we have a great partnership here in Bangor. And now we have a mikveh in Waterville that is also similar, geared towards um, a wider array of use. And it's exciting to have these things. We also have a member of my congregation, my good friend Willow. She's been doing some exciting things. She's going to workshops and training and learning how to be both a sofer and a uh, shochet, a scribe and a ritual slaughterer. This is really exciting because, most of the Jews that keep kosher, this includes my wife and a couple of the rabbis and their families here and in the city. Whereas, we don't eat meat. Leah and I are vegetarians, or I'm a pescatarian. I like the fish. I can't give up the fish, but it's neither here nor there. They still get most of our kosher food from 2.5 hours away in the Portland Trader Joe's. Um, we have kosher food and kosher meat available at our local supermarkets, but Trader Joe's is just, everybody loves Trader Joe's, right? So we make that schlep. So having a shochet in town could be really kind of interesting. But then there are other rituals that are unique to Maine. People have their own spin on Hanukkah and Passover, and I think these things are worth talking about and discussing and having a good time learning about. Finally, if we have time this year, we're going to start shoehorning in some Maine Jewish history. One of the most exciting things to me is that uh, we go back well before the retreat from the Pale. We've got Jews that came here as part of the German Exodus. We had conceivably some Sephardi Jews that came up from the Bay Colony in Massachusetts. There's a rich history, and this segues into a shameless promotion of my forthcoming book. Similar to the podcast, it's called Minhag Dirigo, Tales of the Jewish North Woods. It's a collection of short stories that weave a fictional narrative history of Jewish life in Maine. If you know anything about Jews in Maine, we were peddlers. We owned the chicken processing plants in Belfast. We've we sponsored libraries. We produced a famous senator. It's exciting and cool, but like throughout there's this unique character to Maine Jewishness that just permeates everything. And I wanted to write a book to honor that. And I did. Our bumper music and that you've heard, that's provided by the Schmutz Family Gefelte Revival Band, Maine's only Jewish roots punk funk band, of which I am the lead guitarist, sometimes singer, and resident songwriter. I've linked our Hanukkah album, Down East Dreidel Disaster, in the comments for this podcast. You can check that out. So join us next week when we do our first part of our Interfaith Dialogue series. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope to have a long and wonderful relationship with all of you who listen. And if I don't talk to you, we're getting close to it. Shabbat Shalom.